You're listening to the Ambition Incubator podcast, and I'm your host, Deirdre Morrison. My thing is helping people understand how our brains work so that we can be better and do better in any area of life that's important to us. So as well as bite-sized brain science, I'll be bringing you interviews and advice from experts and guests who specialise in working with entrepreneurs and leaders to help them explore potential, possibilities and ways to be more effective. And the best bit? We can start right now. I get the feeling that today's guest never expected to be talking about what it's like to scale a business into 7 and 8 figures. But Jan Cavelle has done just that. From a start that was more about survival than scalability, she's here to share her story with us today, including what it's like to burn out along the way in a time when burnout wasn't even a recognised condition, and what the rewards of taking on the recurring challenges of entrepreneurship really are. The entrepreneurial habit is strong, and for someone who's been at it as long as Jan, it's probably not truly possible to stop. So we'll also hear about what Jan does to keep herself occupied in semi-retirement, and how she's developed her passion for writing by sharing inspirational stories from entrepreneurs who've trod the paths and achieved what most only dream of. Jan, thank you so much for joining me today. I am very much looking forward to this conversation because you are a woman of many talents and much experience.
Not all good.
Well, actually, do you know what? That's a really interesting place to start. Let's just jump in here and let's go back in time a little bit and let's look at how you started. I understand you took matters into your own hands and started your business at your kitchen table, but have since scaled massively. So could we just kind of get a picture of what it is that you thought was going to happen then, and how that actually evolved?
Of course we can. I mean, I'd started a variety of self-employed type businesses, either on my own or with a friend, just to bring some money in from time to time. The point you're talking about was when I found myself on my own with my children after a split with my ex, and I had zero cash. The choice was go out to work or stay in, look after the kids, be with the kids, which they needed. They were only young still, and try and work for myself and have some sort of business to initially put food on the table, and this is going back such a long while. I mean, I didn't know the word entrepreneur. I certainly didn't know the word scale. I had no idea of growing a business because, I thought I'd be lucky to survive till next week. So it was completely hand to mouth in the beginning. I started doing what I saw the only thing I could do, which was selling on the phone while I looked after the kids, and buying stuff in and selling it out again, which made sense to me. So, as you rightly say, I worked on the kitchen table and a shelf under the stairs. And, just literally, I had, it was pre-computer days, so I had to buy, the old Yellow Pages, when my Social Security check came in, and get listings of people to sell to that way and just get on my phone and sell. And, it was a debate on a Friday, can I go on another week? So it was a long way off having a proper business for quite a time.
So I'm wondering, I'm curious about what it is that made you stick with it. What was the thought that you had that got you to keep going?
Combination of the children, I think, and if you'll excuse my French bloody-mindedness, but I am, if nothing else, stubborn, and I didn't want to leave them. I didn't want to go out, so I was damned if I was going to, but it did look very touch and go.
Yeah, I can understand that. So, what was the first sense that you had that this might actually work? What was the confidence builder that gave you I guess, a bit more courage and a bit more confidence in that?
I think probably the moment one Friday where I'd actually come to the decision. I had one person working for me doing bits and pieces and sending stuff out. And, he was a good friend. He was helping out sort of part-time as well. And I had said to him, I said, we can't. This is it. This is the end of the road. I spoke to an advisor, about whether I needed to do anything to wind it up, which I didn't. Went to bed thinking, no, what, this is just what I didn't need to happen. And as I say, I was working on an old fax and phone, which and the where it came in was directly below my bedroom. And as I woke up the next day, I heard a rare event of the fax going, and there was an order there. And it wasn't my first order, but it had got to such a pitch of we can't go on. Then suddenly there was this opportunity to go on again. And somehow that said, right, we've turned the corner. Enough's enough. We're going to go on with this thing and make it work.
Mm. And from there then, because you're obviously you've scaled a lot in the interim, what would you say what did you need in order to start thinking bigger, in order to actually take that from under the stairs to where you eventually got to?
Of course.
A bit like Harry Potter, sorry.
It was a bit, yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you saw the old barn we used to have, or corner of an old barn to be accurate, it was very wizard-like. But, I mean, it was a gradual process in the early years, very much so, partly because of the children, partly because, as far as I was concerned, I was doing what I wanted to do. I mean, there wasn't a long-term plan, but we had an income, which was pretty damn exciting. And it was only slowly it got up. We needed a bit more space, so we had to get a bigger bit of a barn, or actually some pigsties. So glamorous were we, but they worked really well as a low, long unit. Then there were two people working there, and just, it slowly inched, as these things can do. And then it was a bizarre thing. I mean, I was about 7 years in, maybe 6 years in, and by which time I was buying everything from, or 90% of the stuff from one particular company and another small company, sort of artisans. And the man who owned it came to me on a Friday afternoon and said, rang the doorbell, said, I'm sorry, he was in a real state. He said, I'm sorry, I've just had enough. I can't run a business anymore. I've got to give up. And I said, okay, well, we'll work something out. And he said, no, I mean, I'm stopping now. And I went,
right.
What? You can't do that. What about my supply? So I mean, I'd had a massive panic, and I thought for a while, at the back of my mind, would it be crazy to go in for making it all myself? But, it was only a smidgen of a thought. But there was the opportunity standing literally on my doorstep, and him desperately wanting to get rid of his responsibilities. And of course, that's the best way you can ever acquire another business is just when somebody wants out. So we agreed a deal that suited us both, which meant he could get out that day and I didn't have to pay for a long time. Everybody was happy. Then it became this bigger entity with two small businesses that I needed to run. And just on a practical basis, that meant a complete change of everything, really. Much more responsibility. On practical terms, it meant putting it under one roof, so a bigger unit, which meant proper leases and, well, all sorts of scary things.
Well, just as you're talking here, it sounds like you're taking on a lot as you are growing and developing this. And I'm wondering, because this was obviously a very analog world, a very kind of everything was practical. It was bricks and mortar. It was a lot of outlay and so on. What was apart from making an income and assuming that you're, increasing that as you're going, what was the actual personal reward that you're getting as you're going along that journey?
It's a really interesting question. I think it was creating a life. It was gradually starting to earn me more, which meant I could do more for the children than just feed them, which was handy because they were growing and needed more. But there was a feeling, it was tremendous fun actually at that stage. Startups often are. And it was just a wonderful life and this feeling of achievement. And for me, who hadn't really done anything very serious with my life, it was this feeling that I was creating something, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel, and it's immensely exciting and immensely satisfying to do that, and it's one of the reasons. But I always say to people, you should consider. It's not for everybody, but do consider having a business because it just is enormously satisfying to create something.
Mm. And that's a really good point, isn't it? This idea that drive that we have and that need to create, and that becomes a form of self-fulfillment, which
Yes.
I consider self-fulfillment a strong element of self-care. But obviously your colleague who turned up on the doorstep wanting out had not found it to be the same experience. And I suppose this brings us very much to that management of the kind of ecosystem of our lives and how people can avoid crashing on the way up.
Absolutely. And, I certainly, over the years, it all caught up with me. I mean, I've worked stupid hours and didn't look after myself. We spent, phenomenal amounts of time down the pub and, generally did all the things you shouldn't do. But had a lot of fun. But, there came a time, I guess, when the kids were very much mid-teens, they were needing extra long hours on pickups, and which meant no fun because you had to be on alert to collect them after drama and one thing and another.
When you start the taxi firm.
Well, absolutely. Any parent knows it well. So late night taxis, still the hard work, the early hours, and it started being. In essence, I mean, at the time I was diagnosed with depression. Looking back, I think it was burnout, which of course wasn't diagnosed at that point. It's no, I think it was as late as 2019. Burnout was actually recognised as a medical diagnosis, I think. But I just slowed, got more and more foggy, and went pretty well catatonic.
Yeah.
So it happens. And that's, from somebody who, for many years, absolutely adored their business, loved it.
Yeah, it's like a death by a thousand cuts, isn't it? It's not something we even recognize as it's happening. It's only when you get to that stage, and almost when you're looking back, you just don't know what's happened, how you got there. You sort of wonder, is life just like this?
Very much so. It's a real blur. It was a real blur. I remember the moment that I came to a halt, but what happened before then, I had no idea. Just that I was always tired, always rushing. But what actually was in fact, I don't know what was the push, because, I was actually having a nice chat with two of the boys who worked for me, and I remember saying, I've got to go now, and finding myself sort of halfway down the road, parked on a lay-by.
Yeah. Yeah. That is definitely one of those defining moments, I think, of life, isn't it? When you realise that enough is enough and we are not machines, that we have to actually look to the bigger picture of what life is. It's not just work, is it?
No, I mean, it took me several more years to realise that. The boys who worked for me propped me up through that one, with the expectation, because it wasn't recognised, any of this stuff, So, she's a bit tired of, maybe she's got depression, apparently, we'll look after her for a few months and then she'll hurry up and get better, So you pulled yourself together and got back to it. And of course, it went on taking its toll. It recurred once more, not as badly. And, finally it just got to the stage when the kids had left home. I just, by that time, there was no reason for me in many ways for the business. And I just ended up hating it, as many people with burnout do. They just, the vision of one more day doing it is just horrendous. And in the end, I walked away. Absolutely couldn't do it anymore. After so many years of success, awards, happiness, and everything is crazy, isn't it? But you've got to get out when you first find it doesn't work, or got to make major adjustments.
Yeah, yeah. And so I'm just gathering from what you're saying there that you had done your scaling, you had,
Mm.
created the massive businesses and the big success, and then that, I guess, was somehow tarnished by the way it ended. Is it something you look back on fondly now, or is that still a veil on it?
Yeah, I mean, undoubtedly, yes, I do. I wish I'd had the sense to get out earlier. But up to a certain point, I had a fantastic life, and I'll be forever grateful for what I was able to do for the kids. And I had amazing opportunities, as you do, as you sort of get a bit known on the circuit. You know what it's like. And yeah, lots of amazing life. 5 years of probably approximately of living hell, but
Mm,
we all
mm.
go through things like that.
Now, you don't sound like the sort of woman, Jan, who kind of sits back much as it is. So I know it says you're semi-retired. So what are you doing with the unsemi-retired bit?
Oh, I don't know how to put this, honestly, because you're quite right. I mean, I thought after that, and I was absolutely exhausted, and I thought, okay, I'm not far off retirement age, I thought I'll stop. And, that lasted only a few weeks. But the thing I really missed most of all was writing, because I got into writing as a stress reliever.
Mm.
Always wanted to do it ever since I was a child. And so I'd taken to writing articles for a digital publication. And luckily, I had the sense to think, I am too long in the tooth and I am too burnt out. I can't and have no wish to start another business. I've been there, got a t-shirt and, very grateful for it. But now it's time for something else. So writing, I thought, and I started writing more articles and then got into writing a book, which I'm lucky enough to have had published. Hopefully trying another one, but I'll tell you about that in a couple of months' time when I'm slightly saner about it. So yeah, I still write ridiculous hours, but I could get in my car and walk away tomorrow without any obligation, which is wonderful.
So the book that you have written, the first book is called Scale to Success. So
Scale for success, yeah.
what is I mean, the title seems to say it all, but what would I find if I went and picked that up today?
You would find what I wanted to do. We were talking about before we went live. We were talking about good groups and how they could affect us all in very positive ways. And I'd experienced that with one particular group, and finally found the huge benefit that can come from that sort of peer learning feel. And I wanted to see if that could be remotely achieved in book form. So I put together this book, which contains input from 30 entrepreneurs across the globe, but talking about their experiences and how that relates to scaling. So, they might be talking the strategy, but very much geared into, explaining their life and their business career and demonstrating that point in the way we do when we talk about it, to within a peer group.
So it's all that inspiration that comes from those experiences. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean,
Excellent.
I was so inspired. They're such an amazing group of people. I was so lucky, to have them. And, I didn't think it would even get published, when I started. And then I got so inspired by them all. I thought, my goodness, I'm going to have to try and do this properly. Help. So I had to learn how to pitch to a publisher and all that. But it really took wings. And, just before Christmas, we had one of the VCs from the book actually put on a summit online, and about, sort of 2/3 of the people from all over the world turned up and talked, and, people can still download that and listen to the contributors, and I just listened for the day and thought, I don't believe these people. They're just so amazing.
Could you pick a favorite, or is this like your kids? You can't really pick one.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I think sort of possibly some more than others, but
well, okay. So let's do it slightly differently. Let's think if you were talking to somebody who was thinking, right, okay, should I start a business or should I not start a business? And you were going to, like a wine taster, you were going to pick the perfect story for them. Which one would you pick?
Oh, wow. That's another good question. Running. I mean, I think. I mean, there's a guy who called an Australian called. It's so difficult to choose, but let's go with this one. Called James Bartle, who runs a fashion label called Zytland Denim. Now, he started because he watched, as I'm sure some of your viewers will know, you may have seen it as well. Do you know the Liam Neeson film Taken?
Oh, yes.
Or became a
A
series?
very special skill set.
Well, indeed. But, he'd never come across anything like that. And he thought, he couldn't believe that, that sort of child slavery and actually stealing young girls could exist. And he investigated it. And that all spun out that, he went to Cambodia, I think it was, and I should remember, but I'm sure it's Cambodia, and saw and analysed what was going on that was causing it, and found women that, were used virtually as slaves because they'd had to sell everything to survive and they never could pay back money. And he vowed to set up a business that would actually try and get these people out of poverty, not just pay them, but help educate them and teach them so that they could gradually. I mean, so many of his staff have gone on to build homes of their own and, just incredible things. And it took him 5 years to actually set this business up, to investigate what would be sustainable, because he's very involved with changing the fashion industry to something sustainable and kind and good to the planet. And he needed to find something to do that was going to have an impact on these people and do the research. And he was doing all sorts, like selling sausages and cooking sausages and selling them, to survive for those 5 years. But he was so determined to make a difference that that's what he did. And he's now a big international figure in the States or Australia particularly.
That's amazing.
And huge impact on the world and the fashion industry in particular. I mean, wow. All from a film and selling sausages. That's what entrepreneurship does.
Yeah. Entrepreneurship as a vehicle for changing the world. That is a beautiful idea. Jan, we are actually right on time here. Believe it or not, I think we have been super efficient in the amount of stuff that we've covered in that time. And I want to say thank you for taking the time today to have this conversation with me. It has been an absolute pleasure. I have learned a lot from you, and I'm really pleased to have had the time to do this.
My absolute pleasure too. It's been lovely, really nice.
You're still here? Great. Look, I know there's a lot to choose from out there, so thanks for flying with Ambition Incubator Airlines, and I look forward to seeing you on board again soon. Seriously though, thank you for tuning in. My guests and I love hearing about what inspires you on the show and what advice has made a difference in your life or work and what you'd like more of. So get in touch. If you want to know about my other work, head over to ambitionincubator.com for details. And don't forget to hit subscribe for more great interviews, advice and bite-sized brain science every week.